Welcome to this season's last episode of the Dhane and Josh Show, where we'll be talking all things sports, sports legends of Buffalo, and of course, ourselves.
Hold up. Dhane, do you want to show them what we're actually talking about today?
Yeah, why not?
Give them a little taste about what we're talking about.
What's this?
Today, we will be talking about our championship season and, of course, our special guest, John Tavares. Let's get into it. All right, welcome back. We have with us a very special guest, someone who's done it all. Player, coach, friend, mentor, 24 seasons in the NLL as a player, 9 NLL scoring titles, 5-time champion, 3-time MVP, first in goals and points, second in games played and assists, and most importantly, our head coach, John Tavares. Welcome to the podcast, man. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Josh.
Here for hyping you up? Is he
Yeah.
get
You
more
like
playing
that?
time than me, or
Yeah.
what?
No, that was good. Thank you.
I wanted the intro.
I better get more power after this. I'm just saying.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's disappointing hearing only 5 championships out of all those years of playing and coaching. Should be a couple more.
Yeah, it's not easy.
But
Yeah.
we still got time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a little bit of time here. I think we bought ourselves a little bit of time as well after this past season.
Thank God, yes.
Yeah, that was it's insane. This is really, I don't know, it's cool to be able to actually sit down and really talk about it because we've been so go with everything. I know you jumped right into coaching the summer league as well, so it's nice to actually be able to sit down and kind of rethink and recap things and walk our way through the season. What was, for you, obviously, the season started off with a crazy start, right? We were 0-1, right? Lost to Albany.
Yeah.
Where was your head at the beginning of the season? And, what was your mentality going into the season?
Well, I think going into this year, I was still, my mindset was still on the disappointment of the previous year.
Mm.
And, I kind of wanted just to fast forward right to the playoffs and get to it. And, I kind of felt like my mind was way ahead of itself in terms of where I wanted to be. And I almost didn't want to go through training camp all over again and the regular season all over again. I just wanted to give them the opportunity to get back to the finals. And fortunately, obviously we did. It's a National Lacrosse League. It's not easy to make the championship. It's not easy to win the championship. And, we've been fortunate enough to make the playoffs. Many of the years that I've been as a coach, this could have easily, been a season where the team fell apart after losing 2 championships in a row. So it was nice to see the guys come together throughout the season. And even though, like you said, we got off to a rocky start, I think a lot of the players were still stuck on, the loss as well. And, had a hard time of letting that go. Not just because of last year, but also the year before. So there's 2 losses in a row.
Yeah.
So it gets frustrating. You build a team, you're favored, you're going in, everything's lined up. You got home floor advantage, and you lose. It's easy to say those disappointing, but people forget. Those are 2 successful years. We had great years, and going into the season, I just wanted to build on it and make you guys believe that we still have the team to get to that championship and win that championship, which we did.
What was your thought process behind it, all that stuff? Obviously, you went through it as a player, losing championship, winning championships, and then now as a coach, was your method a little bit different, or did it take years to kind of figure out hey, we lost last year, we got to figure out this year? Is it different now because you've went through it all, or is it just kind of same mindset?
As a player and as a coach, it's 2 different preparations. As a player, you're trying to be in the best physical shape possible. You're trying to educate yourself on your opponent. Whereas a coach, I'm trying to prepare the team as best as possible, give them the best game plan, keep people satisfied, keep them happy, keep them engaged. And, some people you have to massage a little bit more than others. making sure you have the right lineup, making sure you don't overcoach, trying to give you guys enough freedom to be creative and not to be too structured, which sometimes I know that I can be as an offense coach, try to, continue to play in, play out. Whereas a player, you go out and you kind of can control what's happening. You have the ball, you're shooting the ball, you put the ball in net, it solves a lot of problems, right? like as a coach, I can't do that, right? I can only try to put you guys in the best situations to succeed. Yeah. And it's totally different preparation.
It's funny too, like, and you mentioned it a little earlier. It's like in those two championship runs that we had, Calgary and Colorado, when we lost, right? Like, it's tough because you look at both of those seasons and you're, a game away in one series and 2 games away in another from, reaching your goal from the beginning of the season. And a lot of times you look at that as a failure. And I think you made a really good point there. Like, at the end of the day, like, yes, like, we didn't win those championships, but also understanding that, like, we were a damn good team in both of those years. We just haven't, put it together. And I think even if you look at other sports, whether it's NHL, NBA, a lot of those players talk about, like, the ups and downs and the roller coasters that they had to go through to finally get to that championship. Whether you look at, Michael Jordan, getting the crap beat out of him before winning those championships. A lot of times you do have to go through those tough times and get to the championship, and all of a sudden you lose to understand what it takes to win. Like, going back to Calgary, I remember the first shift. I'd never played in a championship before. I remember just, like, getting hit hard, and they were just way more intense. They came out way more, like, ready to battle. And, like, I wasn't ready for that in that moment, right? So I think sometimes you have to go through those, those bumps and bruises before you can ultimately, win that championship.
Definitely, but you can kind of go through rough patches too. I feel like,
big time.
Again, I've been in the league 10 plus years, and I had nothing to show for it, and it was a struggle for me. Where you were fortunate enough to, like, kind of win right off the hop of your career, right? So it was kind of like normal. Obviously, you went through like a long stretch without getting your next one. But for me, I was like, okay, what is going on? What do I need to do differently? And you kind of, each season, you're getting closer and closer, but you're just, you also
like, doubt yourself.
You're like, why? Yeah, exactly. You doubt yourself as a player, and it's just tough to be a part of, for sure.
Well, like, that's the tough part, right? And it's talked about a lot amongst the league, like, this guy's a winner, this guy's not, blah, 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 all that stuff, right? And, like, all of a sudden you go to 2 in a row and you start to doubt yourself. You're like, man, am I just not a winner? Like, is that what's going on? And, like, mentally, it's really hard to try to get over that hump. And I don't know, something felt different about this year. But yeah, I don't know, it's tough. But the other thing that, I mean, obviously that was special about our season and just different in general, the amount of injuries that we had throughout the year, right? And I think, we talked about it on the podcast before, and it's like we had to go through a lot more adversity this year, from the beginning all the way through the middle, with guys like Kluche going down, B-Rop going down. We started without Fraser for the first half the season. Myself, I went down for I think at least 6 to 8 weeks in the middle of it. How was that to be able to try to coach through that with different guys in another lineup?
Yeah, to your point, I think those 2 previous seasons were successful, even though we lost. And what I was trying to say earlier is it's important to take the positives out of that and build off of it and learn how to win. The playoffs in any sport, it's a different animal. Like, it's a regular season, you kind of get through with your offense, scoring a lot of goals. You get to the championship, things are tighter. It's that saying it's a saying for a reason. Defense wins championships, and when your defense is playing tough lacrosse, usually you can stop any offense. And like, I think last year we scored a lot of goals in the regular season. I'm going to say like 14, 15 a game for funsies, and then come playoffs, we're okay, but come against Colorado, they shut us down, right?
Big time.
And we had to learn how to get through that and stay positive. And you guys did a great job of believing in yourselves and sticking to the process and learning how to win. And that's a big reason why we won this year.
Big time.
And then, throughout this year, like you mentioned, we had a lot of different injuries, and guys had to learn how to play. They had to learn how to play in different roles. We had a guy like Dalton Silva, right, playing offense some games, playing defense. He's practicing offense one practice, next week he's practicing defense. It's, it's hard because he's trying to learn two different spots, and he doesn't have the background in box lacrosse, but he stepped up to the plate at both ends of the floor. And when you have guys like that are willing to do anything or play in any position, it makes my job easier, and it gives other people some confidence. I know, like, offensively, more importantly, you need that timing and that chemistry, and it takes game in, game out, playing with people to develop that. So I think for the most part, we didn't have that chemistry, but we're fortunate to have a guy like Dhane. When you were hurt, and to pick it up, and he did a really good job of keeping that offense together.
Mm-hmm. Big time. Another guy too, who and is continuing to have a great year, is Ian McKay. It's funny because you talk about that chemistry, and I think this year what was a big difference for us was what we did, not necessarily in practice or at the games, but as a group away from the field. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it was like going to shoot, a couple times during the week, getting together, making sure that, especially the guys that lived in Buffalo, working together, different 2-man games, 3-man games, whatever it was, working through those sets and getting that chemistry. And it's funny, like there's a couple goals where I think it was like either like the first shift of the game or the first half, but me and Mickey have been working on this, like kind of that hook pick that we always talk about, and where he stays on, I come out, and it was like clockwork. And it's because we had done it so many different times, away from the game and away from practice, that we were both just so on. But it is crazy how much those little things and a little bit extra work off the field can really translate to that on the floor success. I don't know how you felt this year, because I know we've gone back and forth about whether it's good to shoot on an open net or not.
I mean, I
different angles.
Exactly.
The goalie would have been like, if you're shooting against Ward, he's at the top of the crease. So shooting at an empty net, it's easy to hit the top corner.
Well, exactly.
It's just a feel-good thing, and I mean, I've always been like, I don't shoot too much in my off time. This year, I did more so. And I felt like I shoot enough in a game. I don't need to practice shooting. No, it was just a repetitive thing, finding different ways to shoot. It was honestly just keeping my stick in my hand. I felt more confident this year as far as that goes. But it's just being together as a group. Luckily enough, like Buffalo, we're so fortunate enough to be together. I think half our team now lives in Buffalo, so it's a huge asset to like the team and stuff like that, and you're seeing more and more teams do it.
I think it's a huge advantage that we get to practice midweek. Not all the teams get that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you guys living in Buffalo and being able to have the facilities to go shoot, in the middle of the winter, I think that helps a lot. Like, whether you believe it or not, you keep practicing, shooting an empty net, hitting that, corner, wherever you want to shoot the ball, it becomes state of mind. And when it comes to the game, you've done it so many times in practice, it's easy. It's not, it's not pressure. You've trained yourself to do that so many times, so you're used to it. Yeah. So I think just hockey sticks, lacrosse sticks, two different things, right? Your lacrosse stick needs to be on.
Oh, yeah.
For me, for outside shooting and inside shooting,
Big
overhands, sidearms, you got to know exactly what shot you can and can't take in the game, right? Hockey, you got a blade, the curve, you're shooting, you can switch your stick.
It doesn't change like
your lacrosse stick needs to be on point, right? Yeah. So I think the more it's in your hands, like you said it was this year, the more accurate you're going to be in a game.
Yeah. And what's also crazy too, and like you make a great point with a hockey stick, like it doesn't change. Whereas like your lacrosse stick, it's going to be different from game 1 that you use it to game 6.
Yeah.
Right? And because like it bags out, it gets a little bit more
from shoot around.
It breaks in more.
It's like carried around, but like I don't know what it is. It's crazy.
But that's what's so special about it, because like you have to always be in tune with it and always be dialing it in. And even for me, like that was like I felt like I was a lot more confident shooting the ball and whatnot. And just for me, it was like every week, okay, I know I'm going against Rosie, or I know I'm going against Wardo, whoever it is, right? So I'm going to have a different shot for each one of these guys and counters to each one of those shots, right? And then like I would kind of think about that in years prior, but then wouldn't be able to actually execute on it because I'd be like, I'm like, load a high, get him to bite, and then I'd shoot it into the glass. And you're like, what, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
if you go through it physically and you do it, that's what you practice for, right? It's like, I can watch a sport on TV and I say, do this, do that, but I don't practice it. I can't do it.
Just like
If I wanted to be able to do it, exactly. If you golf 3 times in the summer, you're not going to be very good. But if you're golfing 3 times a week, you're going to shoot low 80s and high 70s, right?
Right. So we had obviously 2 huge losses this year, and obviously you know which games those were. And if I have to tell you, I can. But I know,
You're gonna have to tell me.
I know how I handled it. But being a coach, obviously, it's a lot different, right? To kind of get the team back to like.
I'm curious to know what you're going to say. I still don't know the game.
So
games?
You talk about the first one. The first one is Colorado.
Colorado, St. Patty's Day. It was
a Tucker night.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was a huge rematch of the finals, and it just felt like, honestly, like that game again. You know what I mean?
Yes, it did.
It felt like a rerun.
And then the second game is the Toronto game right before playoffs almost.
Oh, yeah.
In Toronto.
And we got spanked.
Yeah. So those are 2.
But when you look back at those games, I'm happy that happened.
Right.
Because both of them we bounced back, and we knew we had to hit the reset button and get to work. The Toronto game woke us up.
Yeah.
We had to go back to square one, get back to basics, get back to everything. Like, we had to go back to square one and just reset. Right. And I don't know how many games we won in a row after that game, but we did very well.
But as a coach, what is your mind like?
Like, are you not rattled? Are you like, oh my God, like what's going on with our guys?
I was I think more rattled with the Colorado loss that we were like doing that rerun again.
Yeah.
Right.
And like, wow, these guys really have our number. These guys are really confident. And just for whatever reason, what came to my mind was that Game 3 in the finals. I felt like I had to remind you guys our record versus their record. That these guys are beatable. That these guys are, they didn't have the record that we had. Mm-hmm. And I get it. In the final game, shouldn't matter. But I just wanted to remind you guys, these guys are beatable. Right? Like, they're just like any other team. And I think their record was, I'm going to say 10-8, 9-9. I'm not sure exactly. And I don't know if you remember this, but what I was telling you guys going into the last game was these guys are like any other team. We can beat these guys, right? Yeah. Same rules, same arena. Same players. We're good. We're better than these guys. Right. And you guys went out that night and proved it.
Because after, I remember just like the Colorado game for me, it was crazy because it was like deja vu, like especially the last couple minutes of the period, or a couple minutes of the game, like you're seeing the fans empty out, people booing, stuff like that. And on such a special night like Tucker night, it was just like, man, like what's going on? I remember sitting in the locker room being like, are these guys just better than us? Like, do they just own us? Like, what is going on? It was the craziest feeling. And Weiser had an incredibly powerful speech at the end of that. Where he got emotional and you could feel it run through everyone, and I think that was a big part and a big kind of statement for us as a group. But then that Toronto game comes around, and first quarter and it's 7-1, and it's one of those games where it didn't matter what we did, it didn't matter what they did. Everything that they were doing was going right, and everything that we were doing was going wrong. And
it was the longest game I think of my career. It was crazy.
Listen, Toronto has a great team. They were built to win this year, and after that game, I was like, wow, maybe these guys are the team to beat. Yeah. Because I think a lot of the media was saying Toronto's the favorites.
Oh yeah.
100%. Even though we were in first place, I don't think we got
recognition. Which was
for
perfect.
being which I like. I'd rather be the underdog personally. Right. So. After that game, I was like, wow, these guys are legit. But, sometimes you have those games where nothing goes your way and everything's falling in for them. And, you get by 6-7, the goals are coming easy for them, and we're getting frustrated, and just everything's mounting and getting frustrating. And, you definitely, lose confidence in games like that. But, how are you going to respond? Like, I think, going in through every game, I always try to remind you guys, everybody's going to make mistakes. How do you respond to it? How are you going to respond to when you make a mistake in one game? How are you going to respond to getting blown out by Colorado, getting blown out by Toronto? And the team responded really well in both situations.
Yeah.
So sometimes it takes that.
Yeah.
To make you guys realize that, hey, we're beatable. We can't just show up and
But it
expect
sucks.
to win every game. Yeah, it did.
I don't like those games are like we have those games once a year. Every good team, great team has
happens.
those losses for sure.
Yeah.
But it was just like I don't know. I'd rather have lost like by 3 to 5 goals.
But
than
you'd
whatever it was.
also rather it against like not your rival.
Right.
You know what I
That's
mean?
the
Where
toughest
like
part.
it's supposed to be a big game, right at the end of the season. You know, kind of like you're kind of sending a message. Going into that game, you're like, we gotta send this dude a message because when we do see him in playoffs,
Right.
like we gotta be ready to go. But you're right. Like I think after that, was that the second last game of the year? I think we played
It was
Albany.
close.
I think we played Albany after that, and we, you know, that was a game where we kind of like as an offense at least we're like, we're kind of back. We're kind of back, right?
Yeah.
And then obviously going into playoffs, you know, those one and done games are scary,
They are scary.
right? Like
Yeah.
you
They are ridiculous. You
never
could
know,
play
Hot
anyone.
goaltender,
Oh
Yep.
bad call,
Whatever it
it's
is.
whatever it is. Yeah.
right?
And,
like
and at
those
that
are scary.
time, what I'm thinking too, like obviously Rochester had our number throughout the
played us-
year,
they
kind of
played
to an
us well.
extent. They're a great team all
Yeah.
year. And again, like you said, one game can happen, and I feel like I could be just from playing from Buffalo for my whole career. You too,
Yeah.
and it's just like refs don't like us, right? Like they and the league realistically doesn't want to see us go back to wherever it may be. So it's like maybe we won't get calls. Maybe like they'll give it to Rochester type of thing. And I was like, those games are scary to be a part of for sure.
yeah. So how are you feeling going into that first playoff game against Rochester?
Well, I agree. Like any one game and done, it's nerve wracking. But I look at every game as just a new game. It says like the history means nothing.
Yeah.
It has no impact whatsoever on what's going to happen that given day.
Yeah.
So I just kind of look at it. This is a new game. It's 0-0. And to kind of going back to what we were talking about, you know, Toronto blowing us out. Look at what happened in the playoffs. We end up beating. Like I would have never thought that we
No.
beat them like we beat them. Right.
No.
You know. I don't remember the scores, but we beat them by quite a bit. You know, that's surprising. You know, you think of like one and done. The championship used to be one and done. Right?
Yeah, that's
It
crazy.
would have been nice last year against Colorado.
Yeah.
One and done, right?
I agree.
But those games are nerve wracking because I don't know that the best team necessarily wins the one and done.
Right.
You're like I would even like to see. I know there's time constraints. I'd like to see the championship go maybe to a 3 out of 5. You know, like 2 out of 3 is not bad, but it's nice to know
Even 2
who
out
the
of
decisive
3s.
winner.
Even
is.
2 out of 3s.
Yeah, I
is
know
like,
it is because
it's
you know
scary.
right? But when you think about summer lacrosse, it's best of 7.
Right.
Exactly.
The best team's going to win most
Yes.
of the time.
Best team's
you know,
going to win, 4 or
most of the
7
time.
games.
You know, I go back to any series we lost 2 out of 3. I'm like, I wish it was best of 4.
Yeah.
But
But
best of 7.
Anytime you win, though, you're like, no, 2 or 3 is
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
One and done's great when you win it, right?
Yeah.
But they're scary because, like, you know, you're talking about Rochester. I was more nervous. No disrespect to Rochester, they were a great team and they did play us well last year. But I was really nervous playing against Albany last year because of their goalie and Jameson. Jameson
Yeah.
played
He could steal
great
one.
that year, and he's a tough guy to score against. And if he got hot, and you know they just kind of had that offense where they just
Kinda
keep
sneak
moving
one.
and just sneak one in.
Joey
sneak one
Rez
in,
was
and-
hot that
yeah, and all of a sudden
year.
it's a 9-8 game and they
Yeah.
win it. Right, I was really nervous about that game. And you look back at that game, we didn't really.
It was
It was close until about, I think I'm gonna say going to the fourth.
But even
fourth
so,
quarter.
like it was only, I think we only won that game like 10-5 or something like that. And
But it was
Dougie
close
played
going to the fourth.
Yeah, and
It was-
and
yeah,
Dougie
yeah.
played lights
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Like
He
we
was-
were
he
like,
played well.
man.
It was such low scoring in the first half.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And we pulled apart, but it was it's 10-5 the finals. And we shut them out the
I think the fourth or
second
something.
half,
Yeah.
or they only scored 1. It was like 5-4 maybe.
The
Yeah.
bottom line is anything can happen in one game.
Right.
You know, the teams are all good enough
Yeah.
to beat anybody on any given night.
Right. And then I just have, like, obviously you were talking about the Toronto series, and I don't think anybody thought we were going to kind
No.
of do that. But, like, obviously that was a huge confident boost. But it was crazy to see our mindset after beating them twice in a row. We were just like, it doesn't matter. Like, we didn't win anything. Because, like, last year when we beat Toronto twice, we were like, okay, like, we have a really good chance of winning.
Yeah.
Where this year we were just like, everybody was quiet. Like, everybody was like, okay, next game, let's lock in. So it was pretty cool to see kind of that part of it.
I felt like it was more the Calgary, going into the Calgary series, that like it was like we beat Toronto in the whatever the Eastern Finals. And like going into that Calgary series,
I agree.
we were like planning vacations and stuff,
I
like
agree.
where we're gonna go. Like,
I agree.
but I do feel you. Like it was something I personally last year, the year before against Colorado, I was like, I learned my lesson from Calgary, but it still felt like we're gonna beat them.
Well,
like
it was more so after game 1.
Yeah.
When we won
the
first game, we're like, okay, we finally got the monkey off our back. Let's go game 2 kind of thing.
And finish it.
I remember going to game 2 and everybody was just too like complacent. Like, you have another chance, right? And those are hard games to be a part of, right? Like, and the next one's always the hardest as well.
Yes.
So I feel like this year was a lot different. Like,
big time.
Obviously, it was a tough loss in Colorado, and it felt like deja vu, like you said earlier. But like, I don't know, something just felt different this year.
Well, I think with the combination of losing against Calgary, losing against Colorado the way we did, and then going through the adversity we did with injuries and whatnot this year, like we dealt with so much that we were prepared,
right? And
we were so focused that even though we beat Toronto 2 games straight by large margin, we weren't satisfied with that. Whereas in other years, we're like, oh, we're going to Colorado, I'm going shopping, and I'm planning a vacay, we're going to win. And I think, and it hasn't been brought up, and I don't know how to word this, but I think sometimes, maybe because the West has a couple of new teams like Vegas and Texas, where sometimes they don't get the credit they deserve. That a lot of people have this misconception that the East is much stronger than the West, so the East team should beat the Western team.
Right.
But as you
the
know,
West
that's
has
not,
won the past.
100%,
right? 100%. I know.
There's some misconception that we're in a tougher league. We won the East, we're going to win the West. I don't know why that is. I'm just thinking maybe they have two new teams with Vegas and Texas that maybe their records are, inflated. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but
I agree.
I feel
being
you.
disrespectful.
No. There's definitely and it's funny. We were in Worlds in San Diego with Team Canada, and you're playing with a bunch of guys that play out in the West in San Diego and Colorado, and they see it too. Like, and it's funny because a lot of those guys that have played in both, right? Like the Brody Merrills of the world, like they would say like, no, like it's definitely a misconception.
Yes.
Because like these teams, it's different playing styles in a way.
That's what he said. It was just different.
It's just different styles to it. And even if you look at, San Diego, I would say is the most like Eastern playing team where like, pressure over the top, all that stuff. Whereas like you look at the Western teams that have had success, like the Colorados, the Calgarys, right? They're more so like they're going to play that wall defense, try to keep you to the outside, let their goalie see outside shots, big athletic guys that are going to try and play you well. Right? It's just a different style, right? And I feel like they're almost more like bruisers. Like even Vancouver, like watching Vancouver play, there was like guys are getting hammered every time. Like guys are hitting the floor like crazy. So I think it's more so different, but I agree with you. There's definitely this like misconception where like, oh, Eastern. And I think it starts from like Eastern players versus Western.
It might be
first Western players
coming from the summer lacrosse,
right?
OLA
right, because
everyone,
right, because like that's always there too. And being a Western guy, I always got crap about it, being like, oh, Western boys, nice job. He did that in the BC Junior League, tried in the Ontario League, right? So like it's from the grassroots, right? But back to, so I guess a question for you, because obviously we go into that Toronto series, and again, like beforehand, you're like, man, like you just got spanked by these guys. Like, this is gonna be a good, like we're coming after these guys, right? Before we get into that, for when you were playing, what was that rivalry like, and who normally had the upper hand? Because I feel like when I first got here, a lot of times it was like Toronto was just so dominant. So
they were dominant.
I guess you played for a while, so
went up and down. Think back here for a bit. But Toronto had a dynasty there. They won a lot of championships. Were making the championship all the time. When I played in the early 90s, Buffalo was very strong. And then late 90s, we faded. Early 2000s, we faded. Toronto was...
And did they like climb that mountain?
The crop, yeah. They kind of took over what Buffalo had.
Gotcha.
It became, I want to say, Toronto, Rochester, Philadelphia as well.
Really?
top teams. But for many years, Toronto had the stranglehold on the league.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many championships they won, but I think maybe 5 or 6.
Yeah. Well, that was also crazy to think about. Like, you played against like the Colin Doyles of the world.
Yeah.
And like, 'cause I remember, I think they won a couple of championships when he was there too.
Yeah.
But it kind of has this different feeling, right? And it's like something about this year when playoffs came around, it was like, especially after that game 1, like I felt confident. I felt very confident. I don't know what it was. Something just felt different going into that. And I don't know if as a coach, because like it's so different, like obviously, and we're starting to coach now, a lot of younger kids, and you're kind of looking at teams like, like this guy, he's pretty good, man. Like, so you're trying to figure out how to stop him and get your team to get your players in the best situations. So like going into that series, were you as confident as like how we felt? 'Cause we felt pretty confident going into
The Toronto series.
Yeah.
I knew that they were going to be a really good team. They just, blew us out the last game they played us. And, I wanted to remind you guys of that, how good of a team they are. Let alone, like, at the same point, I wanted to let you guys know that we're just as good.
Yeah.
And, when we beat them by as much as we did in the first game, I was surprised, no question. But I also knew the series is not over.
Yeah.
And whether you win by 1 goal or 10 goals,
Still
don't
win.
matter.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just make sure that, we're not getting overconfident going into the second game. Because, again, it's a reset button. Anything can happen. They beat us bad. We beat them bad. It's kind of even. We just happened to beat them in the first game of the playoffs. And, I was surprised again. Like, I wasn't as confident as you are that we're going to beat them the second game in Hamilton. And the way we did was, very surprising.
Because that's the other thing is, like, the layout was different this year, right? So it's like, and I think I like that better personally, of, like, not having to wait a full week between each game, right? So, like, that Toronto game, it's like, okay, you play Friday, pack up, Saturday, we're going again, right? And, like, I don't know how you felt about that.
Way better. When you whether you win or you lose, you have to sit on it for a whole week and think about it, and you just want to play again. So having that scenario is way better. And I have a question for you, and I mean, I think I know the answer, but I'm not too sure. But what's harder, winning as a coach or winning as a player?
I think I feel more responsible as a coach
Yeah.
for when we lose. So I'm going to say it's harder to win as a coach.
Yeah.
As a player, you have more control of what's happening. And I don't know, I kind of feel like when I played, I just went out and gave it my all for 60 minutes, and whereas a coach is like the whole week, you're preparing, you're trying to figure things out. Am I doing the right thing? Am I playing the right players? You know how I am offensively. I get some crazy ideas and I try to implement them once in a while.
Yeah.
I like to, be creative. So my mind is always working. When I'm a player, I'm just making sure my stick's on and I'm going to be in the best possible shape for that game. And that's pretty much when I played. We didn't have a lot of video. So I just go out and, like, someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. As a player, I just got to give them my all.
Yeah.
And, as a coach, it's all prep. It's prep. And, like I said earlier, like, communicating with your players and making them feel comfortable and confident and understanding their roles.
Definitely.
I think mentally it's easy to, like, and again, I don't know if it's just me getting older or what, but it's easier to mentally fall on that sword of, like, at the end of the day, there's only so much I can do as a player. But the only thing that I can really control, I can't control refs. I can't control what the other team's game plan is, right? I can't control a lot of that stuff. But what I can do is live and die on, all right, did I give it my all? Right? Did I give everything I had? Right? Did I do what I had to do throughout the week, getting my shots up, all that prep, whatever it is, video now. And then once that game comes, it's just like all I have to think about is just going hard, right? Whether that's taking away reverse transition, trying to get to the middle every once in a while. but like it's easier as a player to live and die on that, because once the game starts, it's just like I just gotta give it 100%.
It is. At the end of the day, it's a sport. It's entertainment. People are in their seats. They're paying hard-earned money to watch you guys play. I do it. I go watch the Leafs play.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I go watch the Raptors play. I'm, you know, paying money. I want to see effort. You know, are they going to win No. As long as you're working your butt off, people like that. People respect that. It's when you're being lazy or not playing very smart, not playing up to your expectation, you know, not carrying your load. You know, people are disappointed. You know, like you said earlier, when people are leaving the seats.
Yeah.
That's so.
It hurts.
Yeah, that's depressing for me. I hate seeing that.
Yeah.
I love when they're in the seats cheering all the way to the end, right? But you know, it's two different roles.
Yeah.
It's totally different. Like as a coach, I like to say that I can come up with a game plan. Players necessarily don't agree with it. Maybe they don't want to follow. Maybe they have their own ideas, right? Like sometimes I remember coaches talking to me as a player. I'm like, no, I like to do something different. Like especially if a coach told me how to shoot. No, I like to shoot this way. Please don't tell me how to shoot because now you're in my head. So I try as best as possible to not be that coach. And I know that I do sometimes often tell you where to shoot or how to shoot.
Yeah, for those listeners back home, it's funny how he coaches us sometimes. I think he thinks we're him. We're not as good as him. So he's telling us, hey, just hook it around this guy, go top left. Okay, yeah, that's easy. Or go around the world. No, I can't do that, JT. So it's funny you say that.
I'm watching my son play. He's from Mimico Junior A, and he's in the playoffs, and he was on his wrong side on a kind of break with a guy chasing him, and he shot short side. I couldn't see the ball. He said it hit the post, and he went to the bench, and I started doing this fake like that, and he saw me do that on the bench, but I wasn't like doing it for him to see me. And he's like, "You suspect me? That guy was on my back. I couldn't have done that." Yeah. But I was like, "Yeah, just go like this."
Yeah,
It's so easy from the
hey, just do this and then drop it in one hand.
Things are happening really fast, and nets are small, goalies are large. It's hard to put that ball in the net. So you got to be as creative, and you have to be confident when you shoot the ball, right? At the end of the day, you know, when you're shooting, you know what your stick does for you and what shots work best for you and what your stick can do. I don't know that. You know yourself better. I can only tell you where the goalie lets in a lot of goals, or the majority of the goals.
Yeah.
That's all I can do. So here's, you know, if it's a top right, guys, this is where the ball's going in. If you don't shoot top right, you know, I can't make you shoot top right.
But we've also had these conversations too. It's like sometimes, and I don't want to give up too much, but it's like sometimes you're shooting shots to set goalies up for different shots.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, but it's like you gotta like be smart enough to be like, okay, like I'm setting him up, and then you gotta hit that spot where he's weak when you get the chance because you've gone to that where he's strong. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, bang, you catch, and all of a sudden, I mean, you're shooting 3 shots to score 1.
At the end of the day, when you're shooting, I'd say like there's for me 2 kinds of shots. The ones you just hope they go in, those are usually bad shots. The other ones are like, that should have went in. Yeah. But I don't care that he saved that. It should have went in. That keeps my confidence going. I'm going to continue to, you know, shoot the ball with confidence, right? And my son, again, Justin, keeps talking about, I won't mention who, but this goalie, how good he is. I'm like, buddy, stop telling me how good this goalie is and stop telling me his stats. Like, not that I don't respect goalies, but I don't want you to respect them when you're playing because you're psyching yourself out. You need to go in there and treat every goalie the same way and understand that high to low works really well, you know, or understand what works for you. Like, just take your shot, shoot with confidence. Yeah. Don't worry how good this goalie is because in that split second you're thinking about how good this goalie is. Next thing you know, you're getting hit or you're taking a shot you didn't want to take.
But it's funny when you say high to low. And I think
I liked high to high, by the way.
Well, I know you did. But the other thing, what you were really good at was when you shot high to low, you would sell the high really well before you go low. I think some guys, they don't take that. And like that's like a across the board in lacrosse, field lacrosse, box, whatever it is. A lot of people are like, oh, high to low. And it was funny because like I think we were in practice once and you were talking to me about the elbow.
Yeah,
about getting the elbow up and whatnot. You're like high to low, like, and I was like, oh, you mean like sell high, go low.
Right. And sometimes as a coach, you have to realize that you have to explain everything in great detail. Like when I'm saying high to low, you have to be deceptive.
Yeah, don't just look down and shoot as hard as you can at people's sticks.
Pretty much.
Which I thought that's probably how you scored 72 the one year. You just shot as hard as
a lot of between the legs,
prayers, like you said, just shooting for prayers.
A lot of 5-hole shots, dribblers.
Those are goal.
Yeah. Well, that's how you need those to get 70+ goals.
Oh, yeah. What were your coaching staff rituals? We know there's a lot of different stuff. I know you're not as superstitious superstitious.
But there was a lot, like,
No, I have to just oblige by these guys like Eric and
Chugger.
Chugger. They're so superstitious. Like one game I bring licorice to an away game and we won. I have to bring licorice to every away game. So I bring them to a home game. No, not home games. These guys are so superstitious. Like they have to have the same thing. I ate a donut. I have to eat a donut. It's like nothing can change.
yeah.
But I said, but we lost that game. Do I still have to bring licorice? Yes.
Yeah. All
So
right.
I don't know when the superstition
Well,
ends.
I was
'cause it
so
doesn't always
confused.
work.
All of a sudden, I started noticing Chugs walking out of the building after games with like this
Popcorn?
massive bag of popcorn. I'm like, what are you doing with that, man? Like, you feeding your family?
I don't know if that's superstitious or he just likes popcorn.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think he just likes the popcorn.
Were you superstitious as a player?
Honestly, no. I just like to get rest before a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. No, I would
Did
say
you tape
no.
your stick a certain way?
No.
Like,
I
you
didn't
change up your
tape my stick. Just,
What?
What do you mean tape my stick up? I
Like,
just
did you
taped at
tape-
the beginning of the year?
and then you leave it the whole year?
Yeah, just tape the knob.
Oh. I used to do that.
Yeah,
Just
you
the
guys
knob.
are
I
crazy.
just leave the knob. I don't
Yeah.
tape my shaft.
Did you cut your palms out?
Of course. If you gave me a pair of gloves that weren't cut out, like my
Yeah.
son right now, at school, he has to wear gloves that you can't cut
Have
out.
palms in them.
And now he's used to that. I'm like, but I can't play lacrosse with palms
No.
in my
Yeah,
gloves.
me either.
No, I can't do
Well,
that.
I'm different now. I went to one in, one out.
How crazy.
It's
You
insane.
like best of both worlds.
Yeah, exactly, right? You can't go wrong. But my thought process, what would happen for me is my bottom hand, because I'm a lefty, when I was shooting, I would always like pull my bottom hand and I would get these creases. Like I would like, my whole hand would just rip open apart. So at the beginning of this past season, I was like, I'm done with this. But I love my top hand being
Yeah, I can see that. I can
right?
see
So
that.
like,
Yeah.
so for whatever reason it worked,
Yeah.
and now I'm a weirdo and have
Yeah,
one
I
in,
can
one
see
out.
that, having palm in the bottom hand.
Yeah, but
So tell us a little bit about shifting gears a little bit back again, but this championship, the championship rally, how it was compared to other years or just in general. Like for me, it was like out of a movie. It felt like so like this is how I pictured it being.
Hold on.
With thousands and thousands. Yeah.
before we get to that, I kind of want to talk about the championship game 2, right? And I know it because like we talked about it being a little bit like deja vu. Like I know how we felt with that. Like I mean, because when I was out and you guys lost game 2 in championship against Colorado, it was the exact same format that happened.
The narrative was happening
The
all
following
over
year.
again.
It was exactly the same. And I know, and I was like, obviously I was at home, I called you, I'm like, what's the vibe? And you told me it was different, right?
Yeah.
So as a coach, like, I'm always interested to see like what your mindset is behind that. Where was your head at? Because like everyone else in the world is like, here we go again. This is the exact same
Well,
thing.
I was like, we're not going there again, and we're going to do this, this, and this next game.
You like right away. You were like, we're not doing
Yeah.
this again. This is what we're gonna do.
We're doing this, this, and this. Like I said to Chugger, we're not forcing down.
Mhm.
I remember the last year, big goal. One of our defensemen was forcing down with no support.
Yeah.
Huge goal right down the lane.
Mm-hmm.
I said, and then the third game, how many diving goals they have?
A lot.
4 or 5.
Yeah.
I was like, that can't happen. I know we want to force down, but not to an expense of guys diving into our net. I'd rather them shoot from the top. If they're going to win, they're going to have to shoot from the top.
And they
So
were-
we played more straight up, and we did. We had a couple other adjustments, but that was the one thing after I was like, this is not happening anymore.
Yeah.
Play straight up defense with shading. We started using the word shading. Priola introduced the word shading, where
Mm-hmm.
instead of like just forcing, like inviting or chasing down,
Yeah.
angling, I would just play man-on-man defense and just
Yeah.
shade him down,
Yeah.
and shade him up.
Yeah. And
Right?
you don't have to like give him the whole lane.
Yeah.
You can still take away top side.
Exactly.
Without, being on top of him and giving him underneath.
Yeah, and if he gets topside, push him far board,
Yeah.
and he gets a shot, he's gonna hit that shot on the run with you in his gloves. Great shot, but I rather that than guy dive in our net.
Yeah, because like they responded well in game 2, and watching it, I was able to kind of dissect it a bit more. Like they reacted to the way our short man was,
Yes.
and like the way that we were, hugging, like kind of stacking
Yes.
those
Yeah.
two defenders. They had some plays that in game 2 they were just like ready for it and played well. And I thought, we made some good adjustments and kind of adjusting back to that. But I wanted to know like where your head was at. And I know we've talked about it a little bit, but like specifically after that game, not allowing that stuff to kind of creep into your head, like what was your thought process?
I mean, that was a whole different mental game this year, just in general. Like first game, second game, I wasn't nervous. I was just playing. And last year, I felt like I put a lot on my shoulders, a lot of weight on my shoulders. Felt like I had to do it for myself, for the team, for all of Buffalo, and I just put too much stress on myself. Where this year, game 1 and 2, I legit played freely, didn't think about any of that stuff, and I felt like I had 2 of my better games, just kind of playing, and my mindset wasn't like, oh, like whatever. I was like, oh, we got one more game, that's all. Like, I wasn't nervous for those 2 games at all, and I've never not been nervous for playoff games in my life. So I had a great mental battle going on there, and then after game 2, I still felt really good. Leading up to game 3, I was a lot more nervous, obviously, coming to that point, but I mean, it was weird. Like, in my mind, I was like, if we're gonna lose, we're gonna lose because I didn't play well enough, and I'm gonna leave it all out there. And like, I don't know what it was, but in my head, I'm just like, I'm gonna take over this game to the extent that I can. Like, I'm gonna leave it all out there. Where, again, just my mindset was just totally different. It was weird. Yeah,
it's crazy. And then obviously, game 3, we get it done. But yeah, like that rally was insane. I don't know if you remember much of it.
No. No. But that means I won.
I hate to say that I was surprised to see so many people, but we're the best fans, so I shouldn't have been surprised. But
right.
We're still a secondary sport, but it was literally like a legit parade. I don't know if I was going to guess anywhere between 3,000-6,000 people. That's great turnout. All those people, out at the square and walked over to the baseball game and fire trucks. Like when you look back at the video, like this looks legit.
Yeah.
Like it's not like 20, 30, 40,000 people like after like an NBA championship or NHL hockey championship, but that made me feel special. Made me feel like we were a top tier professional sport. It's great to see. Like, this is why we have the best fans, in the league. And I remember telling you guys after COVID, you guys keep winning, you're going to see what Banditland's all about.
Yeah.
And people kept coming out, and that's Banditland right there. I think that parade just tops it off.
Man, I remember just like looking out, and it was one thing when we got on the stage, I was like, this is sick. But like it was a whole different level when we were on those fire trucks. Yeah. We're going down the road, and you look back, and it's just like a sea of people marching down behind us, chanting, "Let's go Bandits," all this stuff, like just beside us, going nuts. Like I've never in my entire life experienced anything like that, and like I don't think that I ever will. Like. Unless we do it again.
Once we do it again. What's your favorite lacrosse moment? I know it's probably tough, but
I think I'm getting old, but 2 come to mind. One is the Founders Cup Championship. We were playing against the Edmonton Miners in Nova Scotia, and I scored a game-winning goal in overtime. And then 1992 in Philadelphia, scoring the championship-winning goal in Philadelphia.
Was that the behind the back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember I was telling you about goalies?
Yeah.
Dwight Medke was the goalie.
Yeah.
Dwight Medke was my goalie in Vancouver. I played for the Burrards my first couple of years of senior lacrosse. And my first few practices, I just filled the net on him.
Yeah.
And then he started to know me. Then I couldn't score on the guy.
Yeah.
So he had me psyched out. I could never score on this guy. I hated shooting on him in practice. I got no confidence. So then he's a Philly goalie. And they had him and Dallas Aliak.
Yeah.
Guy wanted Dallas to play. And Dallas started the game. I was so happy. But then Darius Kilgore ripped a shot off his head, pulled him from the game, and then Dwight Medke came in goal in the second half. I was like, oh, no, I don't want to shoot on this guy. I hate shooting on him. So overtime, I get the turnover, I get the ball, and I wind up overhand. I said, oh, my God, it's Dwight Medke. And the one thing, the word on him is he's weak low. I just throw backhand and just pray. There's a pray shot, just low. I don't know where it's going. Right side, middle, it's just low. And he went up, and luckily it went in. But he had me psyched out that he made me take a shot that I'm not comfortable with.
Right. Yeah.
That's why after him, I was like, I'm not respecting goalies like I respected Dwight Mack.
Not letting you live in my head like that.
Exactly. Because I don't want you to experience what I experienced with
No,
Dwight.
it's funny you say that because I'll always remember this when we played together. You were just like, we're like, oh, like Matt Vince. He's like unbelievable goalie, all this stuff. And you legit, I remember hearing you in the dressing room when you were playing, and you're just like, wait, who's that? Like, kind of thing. And I was like, I can't tell if he's serious. This goalie's won 6 goalies of the year, or if he's just like mentally, they just like
trying to do it.
just shut it out. And I'm like, and ever since that moment, I'm like, I think the same way. I'm like, I try to anyways. It's pretty hard, but like, I'm like, I have that mindset, whether you're joking about it or not.
I'm
and I
not
couldn't
joking
tell.
about it. Listen, when Matt played for Rochester, he made a lot of saves that should have went in
Yeah.
Yeah.
on me.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he made like, oh man, he's going this way in the ball. Oh, just
then he-
hit him.
and
Just hit
this,
him.
right here.
Lucky save.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got you next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's
You know,
different.
Eric Fennell, his dad Steve Fennell played in Buffalo, and he's covering Gary Gate, and Gary beats him to the left. Gary goes in and scores. Then Gary beats him to the right, goes in and scores. Steve says, all right, you beat me to the left, you beat me right, now what you got? I know all your moves now.
That's awesome.
Right? That's
Yeah.
confidence.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, man. Oh, I wish. I wish I had that.
I think if you do that nowadays, you're getting pulled. So.
No, he was a great defender, but Gary's the best lacrosse player ever.
Right.
Yeah, which is crazy. So I mean, I got a little bit of time this year, you know, spending some time with your son, which it was fun. It was cool. He's a lot like you.
Yeah.
Obviously a really good kid. What's it like, you know, having to I guess coach but also parent him? I don't think you actually coach him directly,
I have.
but I'm sure you coach him at home.
Both. I've coached him, like I've been his coach, and I,
Mm-hmm.
I try to help him at home.
How is it balancing that, you know, being a father, but still at the same time trying to help him with, you know, little things in the game, being obviously not to pump your tires, but as good as you are.
Well, what I've learned is what works best for him. Everybody could be different, but I think a lot of dads struggle with giving advice in sport to their kids when they've maybe played the same sport. Is I let him come to me now, as he's 17 years old. When he was younger, he would listen to everything I said, and then he goes through a stage where he thinks he knows everything, and I don't know anything. But I'm kind of teaching him how to play the game properly. Like, for example, when you're playing minor, sometimes you don't have to get all the way back on defense because the team struggles, clearing center.
So he could jump
So you
up
can just
and-
stay at center, and the two guys can be like
Yeah.
past you. I mean, try to teach the kids. No, we got to respect that because good teams are going to throw it over your head and it's going to be a break. Just little things like that, right?
Yeah.
So, just you kind of butt heads a bit. And never I want to, jeopardize my relationship with him as a dad to, make him a better athlete. So I've, over the last couple of years where I helped coach his midget team, there was times where I have to bite my tongue, where I don't want to get into a, verbal argument with him about sports and, put him in a position where he's going to be most comfortable and confident. But what I find now what works best in terms of advice is, as opposed to offering advice, if I don't say anything, he asks me, what'd you think? How did I play? So if I initiate the conversation, I hope he doesn't listen to this podcast. He's going to know my secret. But, if I don't say anything, he will eventually, he'll call me now.
Yeah.
Dad, what'd you think? How did I play? Did you see this? And, what'd you think about this? What would you do against this team? He's asking me those questions where if I voluntarily would just tell him, yeah, he knows everything. Right. And he just kind of almost brushes it off. But he went away for prep school this year. He's a lot more mature. So we definitely have more conversation about sport. And, he's a good player. He has a high IQ when he plays lacrosse. So he's always thinking. And like you said, I think you said that I always pretend it's me that's playing. And this is what I would have done, but it's easy when you're sitting in the seats and, it's easy when you watch the replay to give people advice. When you're in the moment, and you're going to get hit from the side or behind, and you're in traffic, and you're a rookie. It's totally different when you're in the moment. And I just want him to be confident, and I want to maintain a healthy relationship as a father and son first and foremost. If I can help him become a better athlete, I try my best.
And does your daughter play as well?
Yeah, Brianne plays. She had a big year. She made a big jump up. She went from playing like lacrosse in Mimico to making a select team, which plays at the highest level. It's called Jewel, and she made Team Ontario this year.
Nice.
So yeah, she's made some big strides, and she's getting a lot better and more confident in her lacrosse ability. So
Does she ask you questions?
I think. Don't listen to this podcast, man. She mentioned the other day, oh, Dad, you favorite Justin, you coached him, you never ever coached me.
Yeah.
So this year I was actually going to try to help her Mimico team, but I found out that it's a different certification to coach women's lacrosse or female lacrosse. So I didn't have the opportunity to go get certified. There was nothing available in the summer for me to do that matched my schedule. So maybe next year I can help out. So I'm looking into how to get certified through the winter, so I possibly can help her out. But
yeah. No, but I think that's awesome because and especially when you're trying to parent someone, like I feel like it'd be so easy just to be like, listen, trust me, I know what I'm talking about, and like and go into them and so I think that's really awesome what you're doing with like, hey, listen, I'm here if you need me.
Yeah.
Right. And then I think that allows the kid to sit and reflect and to think about it on his own and to give him and kind of empower him and her, those thoughts. And then for them to be like, come to you and be like, I have a question about this. Like, what do you think about this? Like, I think that's a really cool outlook and some really great advice, a couple of guys that, might be a couple of years out from having kids, but
I think it's coming full cycle that the things I've told Justin about lacrosse, he is now understanding that I'm right. And I knew what I was talking about then, and I still know what I'm talking about now. Most times, I'm not always right. It's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But I think he respects what I have to say now. And like I said, if I initiate it, it doesn't go as well as when he initiates it.
Which, I think that's just like being a human one-on-one. If someone comes to me and tells me this, blah, 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 naturally you're going to be like, okay, whatever. Yeah. Like,
it's like anything. I remember I won't mention names, but one of my offensive coaches in Buffalo said, here, let me touch your stick. You're in a slump.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm in a slump? I didn't know I'm in a slump. Damn.
Now you're thinking about
what's going on.
Yeah.
As opposed to me going in, hey, touch my stick. I need some luck.
Yeah, big time. So obviously, your nephew John Tavares has been talking a little bit about you and about the Bandits and whatnot. What are the chances we can get him to a game next season?
Well, he loves lacrosse. He's a big lacrosse fan. Loves the Buffalo Bandits. He's been to many games as a kid. He has a busy schedule, and he's got 3 kids. 2 of them are now getting into minor lacrosse, even though they're like, I think 2 and 3 now, 2 and 4 maybe. And, hopefully, as he gets a little older and his kids want to go watch some sports, that he hopefully will come back and, watch a game. I'm sure he'd come back and watch a game. I'm not sure exactly when. Their seasons coincide with our season, so it's hard to, when you get time off, that you're going to actually go and travel somewhere else.
Big time.
But,
I'm sure he doesn't want to be in a rink either when he gets time off.
Exactly, right? He's got a nice cottage he wants to go to.
Maybe we can get him traded to the Sabres and he's close to home.
But I definitely would invite him. Like he follows us.
Yeah, big time. All right, so it's kind of for our final segment here. We got some fan questions. This one is from Brian
Kuna?
Hey?
Kuna?
I don't know. For JT, how much has the game changed since your rookie year?
Oof. Well, I'll tell you, I like when I look back and I look at the game as a coach, I think, holy cow, I can't play that sport. That sport's too fast and too physical for me. I'm not sure how I played. I think it's way more athletic than I ever was. it's not as physical. Like if you look back into the 90s, like literally
Since-
we're like knocking our like heads off. Like
There's no
guys would
rules.
like headhunt, and there'd be like barely any calls, but there'd be like a technical call for like too many men or
Yeah.
some dumb
Some-
penalty, 2
yeah.
minutes, but you rip a guy's head off.
It's good.
And it's okay.
Yeah, stand
but
up.
I think the physicality has gone down and the athleticism has gone way up. And not just that too. I think a video has a big part of team prep, like just being able to put video together and prepare for opponents is a big difference as well, especially stopping good offensive team.
Yeah. From Sean, favorite memory from the season besides winning it all?
Favorite memory?
Yeah.
Probably being in San Diego and having a social night out with the team.
That was a good
Good
time.
answer.
That was a very good time. Is that for everyone, or is that just for us, or just for JT?
You can answer.
I was gonna say because my favorite moment besides winning it all, it is tough. A lot of like sad moments stick out more. I feel like I don't really like have a bunch of happy moments.
Remember the negatives?
Yeah,
I remember the negatives too.
I mean, for me, it a little bit. I'll kind of walk the line here a little bit, but that moment when I was finally like felt good enough to play in that championship was like that moment where I was kind of like, this is like I'm back. Like I feel good. I'm happy. I'm just excited to get a chance to actually go and help us win championships. That was for me.
Oh, I don't even know. I've been trying to think as you were talking.
I can see you staring.
That might have been one of my favorite moments as well, knowing my right-hand man is across the floor from me. But, I mean, just there's so many memories. I feel like the one memory that I don't want to take for granted, and I think a lot of the older guys tell me this to this day, is just like the memories you have in the locker room with all the guys. Like it's one thing that I'm trying to like keep with and just enjoy that time because obviously we all live in different places. Eventually guys are going to retire or it might not be the same team next year or whatever it may be. So I try to just take in all those kind of moments. So yeah, I know that it's kind of a bush league answer, but it's the truth.
Tiptoe around it.
Yeah.
I like it. This is a tough question. I don't even know if I want to put you under the microscope here, but we're gonna do it. From Naomi, JT, if you could build your perfect team from the past or present Bandits, what would it look like? I mean, we could kind of manipulate that and say what, like lineup wise, like what's your starting five?
Oh, like you want to play names?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's tough. Like, how do you? Yeah,
There's been so many guys going through. It'd be almost unfair because I played so long. I'm 100% going to miss out like a decade of players. But I mean, like when it depends. Like I like to build teams that can win in any way. Like high scoring games, tight games, physical games, and you just know you're never out of the game. I think those are the teams that are my favorite teams. So I'm on the Dhane and Josh show, so I'm going to start off with Dhane and Josh playing. Then I got to go with like a guy like Billy D. Smith. Oh my God, like Jim Veltman, like Darius Kilgore, Rich Kilgore. Like
Who do you have in net? Chugger
yeah,
or
just
Vince?
thinking about that.
Your boss or the goalie now? That's what I need to know.
Let's see, Chugger.
As a backup?
Well, no, like I gotta go with Chugger first because he's my boss, right?
We also need Matty to come back next year.
You can read it between the lines. Chugger was my favorite goalie to play against.
Poor Chugs.
No, Chugger's he was great. He's until Dale Bianco won MVP. Chugger was the only goalie. He's the only goalie that won MVP of the league.
Really?
Yeah.
Crazy. I didn't know.
That's insane.
Like Matt's a great goalie. We've had great goalies in Buffalo.
Yeah,
like,
we've been very
Mikey
fortunate.
Thompson, even 90s Bill Gary, Ross Cowie. And, one of the guys didn't get enough respect in Buffalo, I thought, and we struggled in those years was Matt Disher. He was a Western guy.
Disher.
Matty was a great goalie.
Yeah.
And his arms, I think, came down to his knees. And he was just a blocker.
New West boy.
Yeah, listen, we
Or
counted
played there.
one game. Sean Williams, I remember talking to Sean Williams. We were like, you're doing warm-up drills. And we were just doing shooting drills. It was like 30-plus shots in warm-up, pre-game warm. No one scored on the guy. That's how good he was.
That's
He's a great
wild.
goalie. Yeah,
Wow.
but we didn't have successful seasons and when he was there. But not his fault. We just didn't have the team.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that's all we got for fan questions. Obviously, thank you for jumping on the show with us. It's been a lot of fun, kind of being able to pick your brain and to see, the flip side of the coin there and see what you're thinking about. Obviously, can't thank you enough, and super excited for the years to come. Obviously, another big thank you goes out to the fans. Obviously, all season long. To the rally, everything. It's just been, Bandit Land is obviously the best in the world, and we can't thank you guys enough. Anything you want to say? Last remarks?
I want to thank you. Obviously, you've been a mentor for me, so it's pretty cool to kind of talk a lot of shop with you. It was nice to golf with you this morning and beat you, so that was huge as well. I haven't beat
Just
you.
trying to keep your confidence high.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's what coaches do. And as far as Bandit Land, you guys have been our supporting cast all year, and hopefully you guys will be able to show your support when we hang the banner next year. So we're looking forward to that, and excited to be back next year.
Big time, yeah. And if you want the podcast to be back next year, make sure to leave a comment down below. The boys want to be back, so we'll let the fans speak for itself. That's it for us. Thank you again, man. We appreciate
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we'll see you guys next season.